Well, hello, my friends. It's your boy, Garrett J, the founder of Wake Up Warrior and CEO of DKW Styling, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, my wife, who is pregnanto.
we already announced that, Garrett.
I know, but you need to talk on the mic because I listened
Here
to
we
the last
go
one.
again.
Yep.
Get the mic right there.
Yep.
Make sure
I'll
it's
hold you.
right. Okay, thank you, sir.
Why do you always have a hard time with the mic? I don't
Because
understand.
I don't like talking like this. Like, hello.
You need to get comfortable with your mouth on the mic.
I don't like having large
No, it
objects
needs to
by
be-
my mouth.
Well, you wouldn't have to worry about that with me. You know that. Come on now. Listen, if your mouth is right here, you got to be like up on the microphone. Otherwise, I sound super loud. You sound like
I know.
little
Every
mouse.
time I listen, you're like, hello, it's your boy, Garrett J.
It's not early bird. All right, so welcome to the Date Your Wife podcast. If you are new to the show, we'd like to welcome you here for your very first inaugural experience. And we have been playing a lot of replays over the past 3 months.
Yeah, I blame you.
Well, I will take responsibility for that because I got you pregnant, so you've been tired. Anyways,
No, I think it's like over the holidays we kind of got out of the routine, and then all of a sudden it's funny in life and in business and everything. If you lose momentum, all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, what happened?" So
exactly,
it's like one of those things that you just have to consistently stay committed. And it's so funny because people often overlook the small things and the consistency it takes to build large things, or even inside of a good marriage, the small consistent things that keep a relationship stable and going and progressing. So,
would you say this podcast has made our marriage better?
yeah, I think it has. I feel like it's almost, and I think I've shared this on some of the other podcasts, but Garrett and I did couples therapy for like a minute, and I felt like we had a sounding board where he wouldn't like flip his lid and go crazy. And now I feel like we have an audience a little bit that you guys are our sounding board. So at some level, like things get heated, like we try to keep it pretty real, but like I think it keeps it a little more like subdued, which helps us communicate better without like flipping our lids and being like, well, fuck you, well, screw you, whatever, you know.
So you had we had a reveal last night. A little reveal. Tell them how our reveal.
Tell them the reveal.
Why wouldn't I tell them the reveal?
Because I haven't
This
told
will post
photos.
on Tuesday. So why don't you? When
no,
are you posting photos?
I won't have photos ready. You guys are gonna have to wait a couple more podcasts. Sorry.
You don't get to know.
Yeah, no, you can't spoil the
It's
reveal.
a pig.
It's not a
It's
pig.
a horse.
It's
It's not.
something.
It's a baby.
I actually found out last week when your grandma trying to have a baby, like we shared on a couple of our podcasts ago. It's called advanced maternal age. Advanced maternal age. You get to do. That comes with perks. You get to have extra spa dates, and they give you a special room in the hospital with an ocean view. They bring you mimosas.
Oh,
it's great.
they bring you mimosas instead of epidurals.
In between that, you have more appointments and more checks and lots of stuff.
How funny would that be if you actually got mimosa instead of an epidural?
I'm like, are you sure you're not? I think you're not supposed to drink. They're like, oh, honey, you're advanced maternal age. You shut that down. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Thank you
No,
for my orange juice and champagne.
But yeah, no, they do blood testing. So like with my other two girls, I found out at 14 weeks, we actually cheated and used.
We didn't do blood last time?
No, they didn't. They don't. You
That's
can
not
do
a
blood
thing?
work, but they don't really offer it until you're advanced maternal age. So
Really?
No.
When you're younger, you don't get to do the blood.
You can, but they don't offer it. Like once you
I don't remember ever
once
doing
you hit the ripe age of 35, things are different, and so they just offer it, and they're like, and you can. It's like just to check and make sure everything's good with your baby and healthy and all that, but then they also can check the gender. So,
but how do you feel at 35 when it comes to having a baby in you? Like versus when you were what, 25? No, you were 24 when you 22. You were 23 with Bailey.
Yeah, no,
and then
it's not.
Yeah, Bailey's almost 12.
I know, I was.
So you'd have been 23.
Yeah, I think
23,
I had her
24.
when I was 24. Yeah.
So you were pregnant at 23. Then with Ruby, let's see, you had Ruby in 2011.
4 years later.
So you would have been, so what is that?
28?
2007.
28?
No. Let's see, I don't know.
I don't know. You get the
You'd have been
math.
like 20. You'd have been like 27, 26. Anyways, somewhere around there. You're like younger than 30. So how does it feel being pregnant at 35 versus being pregnant in your 20s?
Feels fine.
What does fine feel like? Fine is not a feeling. It feels fine. What does that mean? Talking to the mic. Stop
No, it feels
pretending.
the same. I think that like your first go around when you have a kid, you're like, oh, this is new, it's exciting. You're like, this isn't too bad. And then the second one, you're like, oh God, this, okay, now I remember all this, And so I think I like waited a while because I was like, oh, like, but then.
You were tortured a little bit.
Well, I just was like, oh, I mean, it is a little bit of a sacrifice. I mean, it's like there's a lot, you just don't feel like you for 9 months. And then it takes like I bounced back pretty quick with my baby. So I'm hoping to do the same. But I mean, I don't have hard pregnancies. I don't get sick. I get tired. But like my hair and skin's good. I would say
I would say you're glowing.
Yeah, I think
you are glowing.
I think I look good when I'm pregnant, except for like the home run stretch, and then I'm a gremlin. Remember, that's what you said on.
You're a gremlin. Oh, you become.
I don't think any girl looks cute her last like 3 weeks of pregnancy.
You know what though? It's gradual, so I don't actually notice.
No. Towards the end, even you were like, "Ooh, yeah," like
I'm not like.
Yeah, the last month. It's
did
like
we have sex in the last month that you were pregnant with our kids?
We had sex the day I went into labor.
No, we did not.
Yes, we did with both
not.
girls. I was like, honey,
really?
Because it actually helps.
And you wanted to have sex?
No, I didn't want to have sex.
I was asking you for sex.
No,
the
God,
day
no.
you had pregnant.
No,
you said we should have sex.
It puts you into labor, and I don't know if it's
Is
a
this
myth.
an old wives'
No,
tale?
I swear to God, both times because I've gone like 2 days over with both my babies,
right?
And at that point, like 1 hour over, you're like, oh my God. So like 2 days over, I was like, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, yeah, hun, you're gonna have to put one in for the team because I have heard that it helps induce labor, and I think it does because literally an hour after having sex with both of our daughters, I'm like, yep, here comes on the contractions like clockwork. Let's do this. And then within 2 hours, we're at the hospital.
I think it's because I have very aggressive sperm.
That's exciting. You're an aggressive guy with aggressive sperm.
Aggressive man with aggressive sperm.
All right, what's our topic?
Our topic.
So anyways, we didn't finish the story. So I found out a week ago with the blood test what it was. And then I didn't tell my daughters because I wanted to, when you do a blood test, it's just over the phone. So it's not as exciting. Like with my other daughters, like you found on their ultrasound and the room's full and we're like, woohoo, it's a girl. This is just like they call you on the phone. They're like, here's your results. And do you want to know the gender? So it's not like that exciting. So I decided it'd be fun if we did the gender reveal like in person. So I was looking online. I found these cute little pink smoke bombs and blue smoke bombs. And I was like, okay. So I ordered one of each of them to like throw them off. And then I was like, all right. So what we did is we went down to the beach and it was so funny because I'm like, well, how are we going to do this? So we plant the smoke bomb in the sand and the tide is really high. And I'm like, Kate, light it. And the goal was light it, let it like start fusing behind us, then have them turn around and get their reactions. So we light it and literally like this wave takes out the smoke bomb and I'm like, shit. And luckily I had another one, but it was funny.
No, we didn't even need another one because amazingly enough, even amidst the incoming,
it still kept
which
going.
I told you and Vanessa, I was like, you realize we're burying this like torch in wet sand that has just been covered by tide.
I just imagined us holding it and waving it around and them seeing it. So our plan, plus it was windy. So
backfired.
So anyway, they turn around and they saw it, but we were so distracted with the wind and everything and it blowing out. But they saw the smoke and they were like, ah! So
they were like,
cute.
but you don't think it's crazy. I talked to both girls today, and both of them already said we already knew it was a girl.
I know. I think
it wasn't because you said anything.
You just blew it.
Shit.
Oh my God! Oh, God, he's the worst. You're fired.
Wait a second. I didn't say that. What are you talking about? You did the same shit with our girls right when we're walking down to the beach.
You just announced. You're fired.
I did just announce it. I apologize for that.
We're having twin boys.
Twin boys. Right. No, listen.
Just
you're
kidding.
walking.
If you didn't hear that, screw you. You don't get to know for a couple weeks.
You have to rewind the show. But you screwed up on the way out to the beach. I'm not gonna say what you said, but you screwed up on the girls.
I was like trying to get the girls ready, and my oldest daughter was like, Mom, I can't remember what she was whining about her hair or something. I don't remember, and I was just
always whining about something.
And I was like, listen, when you see the smoke, you'll know what it is. But I said the color. I'm like, when you see this smoke, you're gonna, and she's
you'll
like,
know it's
and
then
like,
she said, or you will see this, and then you'll know it's.
I was just saying that to throw you off, but she's like, she knows. She's like, no, you didn't. You just blew it, and I was like, I did. Oh, that sucks so bad. And so anyway.
Ruby knew what it was right away.
Everybody
She's told me already.
Knew.
I've known what it is since we've been married for
I named my
15
hairline
years.
after it because I knew what it was.
Exactly. And your hairline's name is Bob by MBR.
It's a great seller.
Welcome to Bob by MBR.
It's a luxury brand of hair extensions called Bob.
Listen, I'm sure for all the Bobs out there, you got some good shit going on, but there's nothing luxurious about Bob. All right. Okay. So, no, listen. Our show itself actually has a focus for today.
Does it?
It does, because we went and got some nachos as a pre-runner
Oh,
to
that
this
was good.
podcast for date night, which the nachos were fantastic. If you're ever in Laguna Beach, California, you go to Surf and Sand
Anything with
Hotel.
a chip and
you get some
cheese
nachos.
and some stuff on it is good.
But they did this different. You notice how they baked it?
They baked it so
were
they're not
baked-
soggy.
Exactly,
And they
you
had
assholes.
layers of cheese, like baked, layers of cheese baked, layers of cheese baked. Like there was no. I literally was at the bottom of the barrel, and I was like, "This chip is
Still crisp.
crunchy."
Still crisp.
Man, you nailed
Not
the
like
nachos.
Make or Wipe bullshit.
That was great.
Seriously, I actually didn't
We're
realize.
entertained, Easy.
I didn't realize that we were so impressed by those nachos until right now. But I was.
yeah,
I was
I
impressed
was.
because they were really
we could
good.
have been starving.
Now, we were sitting at Nachos, sunset coming down, Laguna Beach, California. It's been raining 5 straight days. We're sitting at the Surf and Sand
I booked
Hotel.
4 vacations last week. That's how sad I was.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was a lot of boxes showed up at the house because how
so many
depressed
boxes.
because how depressed Daniel was sitting on the couch
I
buying
booked
shit.
4 chips.
Four
I
chips.
was thinking about those damn chips.
4 trips and had some stiff chips.
Yep.
All right, so anyway, we're sitting there and we're talking to our server, and he's a good guy. He surfs too, and we're having this talk and this discussion, and the topic of date your wife comes up.
Well, he just kept saying, "Oh, are you guys on date night? What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know. We're going wherever the wind takes us."
Well, we were on date night. We told him
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then that led us to having a conversation about him and his wife, and he shared something interesting that had you fly off the handle on the way down. We're driving down PCH coming here to the
Well,
podcast
no.
studio.
I
Not
didn't
flying
fly
off the
off
handle like you're
and
angry.
negative.
You
Yeah,
just
no.
like, hey, said, hey, here's our topic for tonight. Off you
Garrett
go.
and
What
him
is
were
it?
talking about surfing, and I checked out and was just looking at the sunset. And then he started talking about podcast, and he's like, "I need to check out your guys' podcast." And I think I'd seen one of them, and I was like, he kept saying something. He had a little boy or girl, I can't remember.
2-year-old little boy.
And then he was like saying he's married, and anyways, and I was like, "Oh, you're married and you have kids?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, we have a podcast called Date Your Wife. You should check it out." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then Garrett said, "You were just saying like, oh yeah, that's like the number one thing that."
I said, that's the number one. If you were to look at what the number one solution is to a marriage that is not working, is date night once a week without children and no friends.
Well, and then it was
No friends.
But then it was funny because he said something that I hear a ton of people say, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, totally. Like we need to totally do that more often. It's been forever. We did date night a couple weeks ago, and it was so great. Her mom came down and was watching the kids.
It was Christmas party.
And then
it's like a month ago.
Yeah, and then he said something like, "But it's tough because we don't have a lot of family here, and this and that." And I hear so many people say that, and so I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like when Garrett and I mean, we've been married 15 years, and literally we've lived in California now for 5 years, but up until then, we had moved every 2 years, and it wasn't like we just moved like 10 minutes down the road. Like we
moved states.
We moved states, and we moved to the point where I had no friends and no family, and I grew up in the same house until I was 16, and then I moved into another house and graduated high school from there, and I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and lived in 2 houses. So I'm very used to just like staying in my little comfort zone, in my little bubble, and like being surrounded by family. I was raised Mormon. Like we went and had family dinner at my mom's house every Sunday, and like family is a big deal. And so anyways, when we moved, at first it didn't bother me. I didn't think about it because we didn't have kids and it was fun, but I missed my family. And we actually moved back to Utah. That's where I had both of my children. And then it was, I moved back to Utah, both my children, then we moved away again. And then like having kids and moving outside of the state, and like I had all of a sudden this like so much anxiety. Like I was like, I have no help. And my mom like would fly down and like help me, and I was so appreciative, but I was like, I can't just like be dependent on having like family fly in and help me. You know what I mean? And it was interesting because I had so much anxiety over it, but I just kind of got to this place where Garrett was like, we have to do date night. Like
No, I was like ruthless of it.
but not in the beginning. I think
No, I was committed to it.
but it was when we moved to Arizona, and I think you were kind of like, you know what, we need to start doing date night once a week. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I don't have a babysitter. And he's like, I'll go on care.com. I'm like, to hell you'll go on care.com. What kind of psychos are on care.com? Like, I was like, no, thank you.
Every girl we've had over the last
But anyways,
7 years has come from care.com.
I think as a woman, like, we just think, oh my God, we can't trust anybody else but like immediate friends and family, or like a referral or whatever. And I didn't really have any of those. I didn't have an option for that. And so I just was like, oh my God, like we kind of get friends with people, and then I kind of ask around and I'd get people and whatnot. But it was so scary for me. But I just like got to this place where I would like be like, I refuse to let my life kind of be run by this anxiety of not being able to have time off for my children. And part of that doesn't just include like, okay, juggling the kids. It includes time away together. And so for me, being a young mom, not having a ton of money, moving to a whole different state, it was really, really hard for me. And I just got to this place. I'm like, no, I will not let this little thing control me. Like, I felt like it was just like playing, not controlled me, but just like, I'm like, you need to get out of your own fears, you know? And so anyways, we had some shitty babysitters along the way where I'm like,
pretty bad.
Oh my God. Like, just young girl. Like, remember when we first moved to Arizona and I really wanted to take this trip to Hawaii? And my parents have a timeshare there. And I was like, all we have to do is pay for flights, babe. And we had like no money. And so I was like, if we can just pay for flights and get a babysitter, like, oh, I need to get out. And so
I had a friend. We knew this girl from Utah. We flew her in. She was in her 20s.
She was 19.
Oh, she was 19.
I think she might have even been 18. I don't know. And I'd never even met her, but I was trying to like just trust Garrett and just be like, okay, like handle it. Because the more I would just get anxiety over the whole situation. And he's like, no, I have a girl. She's 19. Like, I'm like, okay. Because it was for a whole week. And I was like, all right. And our kids were little. And so anyways, we get this phone call one day from like somebody in our church, and we didn't even go to church, but they knew us because they had our records or whatnot, or knew of a neighbor, and they're like, hi, I just wanted to let you know, like, we have your kids and your babysitter's in the hospital. I'm like, oh my God. And that was like the first time like I realized I was like, I had this really high meltdown, and then I went to this Zen place and I was like, there's nothing you can do. And then I was like, okay, well, what are the facts? Well, the facts were this family went to school with our kids. They knew us kind of, and we had met them before, and, you know, anyways. And our babysitter had fallen down the stairs or fallen off a toilet or something and sprained her ankle, but she got all weird and panicky and, like, didn't know what to do, and I don't know.
Her mom ended up flying to Arizona.
No, I don't think her mom did.
Yes, her mom flew to Arizona to be with her and the kids until we got home.
No, she didn't. I know she didn't. She passed them on to some neighbors. Remember the cute neighbor couple that was like our age?
Yeah.
No. She did not fly. Our neighbors like watched them.
I swear her mom came down.
No, they didn't.
They watched our kids the rest of the time?
Didn't. No, she did. She came back and I was like, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, I just have a little sprain. And I'm like thinking, oh my God, like she went to the emergency room for a little sprain. And I was like, really? Like she was fine. But what was funny like about that whole story, I remember Bailey like telling me like, yeah, she lost her phone, and like there was no GPS then in cars or phones. And she's like, so she left us in the car and she went and asked the gas attendant, and like we got a map and we made it home. And like the whole time I'm like thinking, what the fuck? You don't leave kids in cars? But like how would a 19-year-old know that? And like I don't know, like little things like that. I'm like, really? Like we left her with a 19-year-old that I knew little about. So it's funny because I'm probably not like helping all of you moms. I'm like, you need to get over your anxiety and hire a babysitter. But
we did not hire at care.com.
No, but what I found is to alleviate your own anxiety is you have to delegate and give your babysitter or nanny good instructions. Like yes. I can't tell you how many people like even that I worked with in the past that were like they finally hire a babysitter and then they'd be like coming to work and they'd be talking shit about their babysitter and they're like, I mean, she won't even put the dishes in the dishwasher or this and that. And I'm like, why not? This is a weird idea. Why don't you just ask her? Why don't you tell her one of the things that she has to do when she babysits is that the dishwasher must be empty. Give her like the top 5 things. Kids have to be in bed. This has to be done. Check the laundry. Do this. I'm like, they won't think to do it. Like they just won't. If you expect this to be done because you're paying them $12 an hour, like forget about it. You need to be more clear with and delegate when hiring help. And so that was like my biggest mistake when trying to like reach out and hire help is it was like, I didn't really give very good direction, and I just kind of was like, oh, yeah, you'll do. I need to get over my own fear, so you'll do, you know, and you have to go into it thinking like, no, I can find somebody that I trust and I like, and anyways, so that's my story.
So this babysitter did not come from care.com. And listen, we don't get paid by care.com. I'm not even sponsored by care.com, nothing. But I'm just telling you right now, like our current babysitter, our current nanny, she's been with us for a year and a half, 2 years?
A little over a year.
Or just over a year. She's amazing. And I'm going to give you a little strategy for the babysitting game when it comes to care.com. Ready? Go to care.com, you put up your profile, you put up your picture, you do your thing on care.com, right? You set up your account. Then you allow people to come in, but you do not be the cheapest bastard on the block. Not the cheapest bastard on the block. Check out and consider this the following, right? I'll watch this. There's like two things that people go cheap on that I don't understand. They go cheap on tattoos and they go cheap on babysitters. You're like, let me get this straight. You're going to have somebody take a needle with some ink, put it on your body, permanent, forever. Not going to get off there. Not going to replace it. It is going to be on there forever. But you're trying to get a discount. There's three things. 1, tattoos. 2, babysitters. 3, LASIK eye surgery. Somebody cutting your eyeballs with lasers. You do not want a fucking Groupon.
I'm going to go with just pretty much any kind of needle or surgery on that too.
Plastic surgery. You
don't want a Groupon?
Yeah, you're getting a Groupon deal on your boob job. Next thing you know, you got one size of a cantaloupe and the other one the size of a pumpkin. All right, so here's the deal. Care.com though, you go there, you set up your account, but here's the trick. You require the applicants to email you a video.
Anytime we didn't do that, it didn't work out.
It did not work out. We emailed a video. We ended up on Care.com with a very old lady we called Grandma. What do we call her?
Grandma Donna.
Grandma Donna.
Grandma Donna was
not a good move.
No,
Grandma Donna was literally a grandma. She was super old.
Yeah.
We would come home to Grandma Donna and I would look at her and I was like, this is like, you remember that show, Don't Tell Mama the Babysitter's Dead?
That was Grandma Donna.
I literally, when we would go out, had a thought of, I'll bet you she dies tonight.
Our kids, here's the thing though, our kids were getting older. I was literally just thinking listen, we need our date night. Just make sure the kids do not die.
Yeah, that's all.
It was when they're littler and they're 2 and they're into things and they're running around and you're worried about them injuring themselves. Our kids are 7 and 11. I was literally like, kids, don't fuck this up. Watch a movie and go to bed, okay? That's kind of how it went down. And I knew she wasn't a permanent solution. It was just cool, we got to go on date night.
She was temporary.
But then it got to the point where, the kids were just we don't like her. She's mean. And I was like, all right, this has gone on way too long. We had her for 6 months. And I was like, she doesn't want to be there and they don't want her there. And so it is what it is.
Well, she was miserable because, her husband had passed away. She needed money, and she was babysitting, and she was not wanting to do it.
That. But here's what the point that I want to get back to too is a lot of times people they think I can only trust my family, but in my experience, sometimes if you actually research and find somebody that's good with your children, they're going to be way better than family. A lot of times, family is just they may try to multitask. Free help, you're usually not going to be hey, can you make sure the kitchen's clean? Is this picked up and whatever? And family, I don't know. For example, my mom, she'll always be oh, I raised you 5 kids because I'd be Mom, I want it done this way and this way and this way. And she's I think I know how to do this. I've had a few kids. And I'm that's great. I want it done my way. So it's for me, I'd rather hire help because I'm hey, this is the routine. This is the structure that I like.
Yes.
And if that's not something you want to follow, that's fine. I'm cool to hire help. And even little things where I'd come home and my kids would be riding in the street and we live on Pacific Coast Highway. And I was Mom, I don't let my kids go out there Bailey maybe, but Ruby, this was a couple years ago. I was Ruby's 5. I don't usually, if she's riding her bike, I'm with her. And she's but raising 5 kids in a different era. Yeah, you were hey kids, come home when it gets dark. And you
how about the time when you came home and Ruby's walking the dog?
Oh, that was with a babysitter. When my daughter was
Marissa.
2. Yeah, when my dog, how if you have a 2-year-old, you can appreciate this. They're little secret assassins. Literally, you turn your eye and then 2 minutes later, you're
gone.
Where is Houdini? And I remember Bailey was a bull in a china closet. And funny story about that too. When she was older, she didn't know. She thought bull in a china closet. Literally, she's how am I a bull? I'm not a quiet little bull in a china closet. I'm no, you're a bull with horns.
Smashing all the china.
And she saw Fernando on the Disney movie, and she's why is he tiptoeing around I'm that's a bull in a china closet. She's that's what a bull in a china closet means. I was yeah. She's you guys always call me that. I'm yes, you are a bull in a china closet. She's a lot, my oldest daughter's a lot Garrett. So she's just what she's doing and where she's at, and she literally leaves a trail. Where Ruby is a secret assassin. You don't even see that shit coming. You're just whoa. And so she's so funny. She's a lot like me. She's quiet and very independent. And we have this little wiener dog named Chloe. And one day I come home, driving home from work, and Ruby's she's 2 at the time. She has my weenie dog, and she's not kind of down the street. She's heading out of the neighborhood. And I'm Ruby, what are you doing? And I put her in the car, and I come home, and I have Ruby in one hand and my dog in one hand, and my eyes are huge. And I look at my nanny, and she's just cooking dinner as happy as can be. And I'm hi. She was exiting the neighborhood. She's what? I literally just saw her. So I was like, yeah, 2-year-olds? Yeah, you got to like, they have to be right by you at all times.
So what you're hearing is a series of tales that
Yeah.
have actually
But guess
discouraged
what?
you from going on date
I
night
think the older you get,
and
no,
having anyone watch your children but
I
mom.
understand like when parents have like 5 kids and their kids get older, when they laugh at like the young moms like doing the little things, because like you kind of get dumb to it. You're like, oh yeah, they survived, cool. Like little situations where you're like, oh, that was sketchy, but I mean, I guess kids are more resilient than we think, and sometimes you have to just kind of like trust that whoever is caring for your children is like going to be responsible. Like they can follow the guidelines that you put for them, but in the end, like you have to trust that them being with your kids is exactly.
Here's the thing, though. We've done a lot of things to fuck up the babysitter game. One of the things we did was we underpaid. The other thing we've done is overpaid.
Yeah, you can't. You gotta just go sweet.
Like we've had overpayment. Why I had a nanny where she was making salary with us, plus we got her apartment, and because like I was that committed to date night. Like I was convinced that our marriage was never going to work unless we went on date night. So I looked at it as an employee on the team, and I was like, listen, I don't give a shit if she works full time or not. I'm gonna hire her full time. I'm gonna get her an apartment to live close by us, and like because I want to be able to have on-demand babysitter when we need it, how we need it. I want no negotiation with this. I want to go out on Thursday night with you. I want no debate. I want to go on Saturday night with you. I want no debate, and that worked except for the fact that she became entitled to shit, and it didn't work.
She just got too comfortable, and like I felt like I got to the point where instead of like she was kind of supposed to be like on call, and it got to the point where I'm like, hey, can you do this and this? And then she's like, oh, I have a yoga class, but right after that, and I was like, yeah, no, you don't. You're kind of like on call. Yeah. Like this shit needs to be done. Like you can't tell me like, oh, I have a yoga class right now. And it just kind of started to get weird. And I think even my energy started to like pint up, and I was just like irritated because I felt like I was always having to like ask her like nicely and like dance around it, and I don't know.
But like, we got a great solution right now.
Yeah.
We have a girl, and her name is Torina.
Yeah.
And she is fantastic.
So the moral of the story is like whether it's family, whether it's someone you pay, like there really is no excuses to not creating date night and space for yourself. And it's something that you just have to make a priority. I mean, when we're given situations where we have to, say, for example, move or whatever, like you say, oh, I'm not going to move, I'm not going to do this. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, we have to do this. Like you make it work. And so that kind of goes like you can't have like excuses. You just have to make it a priority. And when you make it a priority, you find a solution to go on date night.
And long term, listen, if you care about your marriage, you go on date nights. If you don't care about your marriage and you don't care about your sex life, you don't care about your communication, you don't go on date night. Right? But if you want things to work out, you go on date night. You go on date night every single week, at least one time without kids and without friends. So, like, to pull that off, you're going to have to go through some trial and error. You don't build a business overnight that works. You don't build a marriage overnight that works, and you don't find a babysitter overnight that works. So you're going to have to test your things out. Our encouragement, though, as you're listening to this show, is to do it a little bit different than we did, which the best thing we've ever done was we went to care.com, and we required the video application bio. And that was where we have found the best results ever. So if you take all of our shit show, which was somebody's 19-year-old kid, we had, oh my God, I hired a 13-year-old who wouldn't change a poopy diaper. I mean, we have gone through the worst ever because we didn't go to care.com. I swear I feel like I should get paid by care.com for saying all this shit, but it's like legit.
I liked how you said it's like finding a babysitter can almost be like building a business, and like you learn as you go. Do you know what I mean? And when you're building a business, you assume people are going to know what to do, but you should never assume. So same goes with like hiring a babysitter. Like you want to look for somebody that you like, and then be clear with the outcome that you expect while they are there, and then keep them always like kind of keep them in check. Just be like, hey, I need X, Y, and Z done, or like even though like our current person like she knows like I like it picked up when she gets home, I'll still text her sometimes, be like, hey, can you make sure it's straightened up for me? And she's like, yeah, no worries. So,
but that was even a situation where we had to sit down and give her clear outcomes, and she didn't have a problem with it as long as she knew how to win.
Yeah, people want to know how to win, whether it's a nanny, whether it's an employee. Like, they're going to, like, start to retreat when they feel like they don't know how to please you. And that's probably even something like the nanny that we said was entitled and whatnot. Like, she probably felt like she was doing all she could do. You know what I mean? And we weren't clear enough maybe to be like, hey, you are on call these hours. Hey, no, you don't get to sign up for a yoga class. Like, you know what I mean? It was way too, like, flexible. And I think we set it up kind of flexible, but then when she would do it, I would get kind of irritated. And so that's, like, partly bad on me. And so it's, like, again, going into anybody you hire as, like, okay, this isn't a short-term goal. Let's like set up realistically. Maybe you sit down with your husband or wife and you're like, what do we realistically want in a babysitter? Great. And maybe you even put that inside of like what you're looking for and then tell them to submit an application through video so you can kind of get their general vibe and see how old they are and whatnot. And then do an in-person interview and kind of go from there.
So your principle is simple. I'm going to give you this tactical strategy, care.com. I know other companies are getting out of this podcast shows are getting sponsored by care.com. We are not. We don't need you to sponsor us, care.com, because your shit was legit. We found our people there in a magical way. Go to care.com, set up your account. Once you're there and set up your account, request on the don't be a cheap bastard. Pay high. Listen, you're investing in the guardianship of your children. Right? And like, I wished I'd known care.com, etc. was always available from the beginning. I would have done this so differently.
Friends, it's so funny in California. Like, I would say like the average going rate to hire a babysitter is like $20 an hour.
Yep.
And we had some friends that moved here. And if she hears this podcast, she might know who she is. But I remember when she moved here, she's like, oh my God, like they live somewhere else where I'm sure like the going rate's like $12 an hour.
Like
and
10.
She was like, oh my God, $20 an hour. And I was like, who cares? I was like, they're with your children. Like, I'm like, if you actually averaged out how much you use them per month, so let's say it was $2,500 a month, that is so worth it, knowing that like they're taken care of. And I said, and you know what? If you feel like you're paying a little bit extra than what you're used to, just be like, hey, here's what I expect to be done. I have no problems paying you that, but this is what I want. I want kids have bath, kids have bedtime, kids have bath, dinner, stories, nighttime. I want them in bed when I get home, and I want the kitchen picked up, and if you have like your 5 goals that you want set up, because that way when you're paying that money that you feel like is a lot, at least you're like, hey, I know my kids are taken care of and everything's done off the checklist. And having the experience like of date night, like you're like, okay, this was worth it. So you can't necessarily like put a price on it. Like if you look at the overall investment on a monthly basis, you're like, oh.
Well, if you look at it, you're doing two things. One, you're investing in your marriage. What's your marriage worth? Right? Yeah, you want to sit here and talk about how much money you want to put into things? Like, well, how much is your marriage worth? Second piece is how much are your children worth?
I think it's...
So, again, LASIK eye surgery, boob jobs and tattoos, as well as babysitters. Why in the hell would you be a cheap bastard?
I will say this to women out there, too. I think a lot of women need to let go of that mommy guilt and allow themselves space for themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's, like, really hard. I mean, yeah, they'll go to the gym for an hour and they're like, okay, that's my me time. But it's more than just, like, workout time. You know what I mean? Maybe you wanted to go to the spa. Maybe you just wanted to go wander around Target for an hour without kids climbing out of your cart. Yeah. Like, I remember when my kids were little, I was like, I just wanted to get out of the house so bad. And then we'd be at Target and I'd be like, why did I think this is a good idea? Like literally Bailey, it was always Bailey, would be like head diving out of the cart. I was like, what is she doing? I mean, Ruby was actually pretty good. She would just sit there and eat goldfish. So it was cool. But yeah, I just think that like there's a lot of like, I think my advice to women is like, get over that mommy guilt. And even if it's like, hiring a sitter, because sitters usually want more hours and want full-time work, and that's why it's hard to maintain a consistent babysitter. And I think that women they're like, oh, I'm Superwoman, I can do it all. And it's funny what maybe even like 4 or 5 extra hours a week of you time would actually give you. And I understand like when they're in school it changes a little bit because that can become your you time and you can get a lot of stuff done in there. But if you have young children, like don't underestimate like an hour or two by yourself. Like no matter what it is, like even if they come to your house and you literally just go to Target for an hour, I can promise you it'll make you a better human being, a better mom, and a better wife.
And that was a good strategy that our server had tonight. His wife got a membership they got her a membership at Lifetime Fitness. You get 3 hours a day at the babysitters with the kids.
Yeah.
So listen, we're going to wrap this show up. We got to finish up the rest of our date nights. Couple of reminders here. Number one, care.com. All right, go to care.com, get your account set up. And also when you're there, remember, request your babysitters driven by a dollar value that makes sense as well as a video bio. I mean, when they turn in their application to work for you, make them send you a video. The other piece with this, too, is you have not been following Danielle on her blog. You can follow that at dkwstyling.com. She's got all of the shows. She's got all the stuff here with Date Your Wife. She's got everything over there at
I'm going to tell them what I do
DKWStyling.com.
on my blog. I have a blog. And
All right, go
it's
for it.
like my landing page for pretty much like everything I do in business. So I own a salon in Laguna Beach, California called DKW Styling, where we specialize in natural beauty rose. I have another podcast called Big Money Styles, which is the education for natural beauty rose. Anyways, Monday is all about hair. Tuesday, Wednesday are my podcasts. Thursday, if you love fashion, tune into these videos live. I actually have a really cute dress on tonight for date night. It's my self-portrait.
So
And then I actually started my brand on YouTube, not in YouTube, but on YouTube, and so I'm now getting back into YouTube this year too. So I have content Monday through Friday.
beautiful. You can check that out at DKWStyling.com. And if you're a man and you want to learn more about the Warriors Way and the game that operates here with just one small piece here in Date Your Wife, but also the entire game to having it all as a man, you can get a free book pack. We call it the Warrior Book Bundle. Be the Man, the book, as well as Warrior Book. I would like to send them to you for free. You just pay for shipping and handling. You do that by heading over to warriorbook.com. We've already had roughly around 2,000 to 3,000 of those a week that are going out the door. I'd love to give you a copy of those for free. Also, again, head over to warriorbook.com. And if you'd like to follow Danielle, head to DKWStyling.com. As for this show, we are complete.
Woo.
And we are going to be back next week.
And we're having a baby.
We're having a baby.
And you may or may not know what it is.
You may or may not know unless you rewind back to about 10 minutes into the show, of which time you will find out what the baby was. If not, you can hear next episode, which will be our official release because the people on Instagram will have already found out. All right, we are done. This is Garrett J, your co-host here with Danielle K. White. We signing off, and this show is complete. We will talk to you guys next week.